Hey guys, this is Tom Paul Tipton, your host for the Exchange Podcast. We're coming to you from Living Water Church in Conway, Arkansas. I'd like to welcome you back to another episode and say thank you to those who support this podcast with your contributions. Please like and share us on Facebook and get the word out, and like, subscribe, and share us on YouTube. Send any questions you have and join in on the exchange.
Look, so I was talking with my brother about just different things that are going on.
Yeah.
And get this, I asked him, hey, what's your favorite flag? And he said, what flag? I said, yeah, like your favorite flag from a nation.
Uh-huh.
And he says, well, I have to say the pride flag, of course, right? I was like, no, you don't have to. It's not a joke. He said, okay, well, I really like Somalia's. And I said, hey, Wales is actually pretty good too. And he says, Wales is pretty great, but they're still subservient to everybody else. And I said, you're right. Any flag that's not the American flag doesn't really count. So American flag for the best. Anyways, welcome to the Exchange Podcast. I'm super excited to be here with Thomas. I really was talking with my family about flags, and my older brother told me that we were being traitorous because we didn't choose the American flag. Because, listen, the American flag is the best flag. If you want to choose a fascist type flag like the pride flag, because when you hold the pride flag at a certain angle, it does make a swastika. I'm sure you've all seen that photo floating around as a joke, but still, jokes are jokes, and we're all having a good time here, having a laugh. But what's not a joke is hypocrisy. Having a bunch of documents like government emails and whatnot being hidden, and nobody's kicking your door in for no reason. Hillary Clinton, we all know. This is all a joke. I don't want to harm myself in any way, shape, or form. But if you're the president, yeah, I've already decided I don't want to do that. So if I'm found in a ditch with 2 holes in the back of my head, that wasn't me, I swear. But
it'd just be suicide.
Just suicide. But hey, I have to say, when Hillary Clinton gets away with something like that, then the president should be able to golf on his own personal property and not have the feds kick his door. And oh wait, that did happen this week, and we did see hypocrisy happen. And love it or hate it, this isn't just for the right. This isn't just for the center. This isn't for the far right. This is for everybody. Louderworth Crowder said a bell has been rung, meaning it can't be unrung. The government has overstepped its bounds. 110%.
So, and welcome back. This is your humble host, Tom Paul Tipton.
He's too humble.
And I got to give creds. I took that from the great late Rush Limbaugh. Always wanted to say that. But anyway, yeah. When it comes to the flag, I think the more important question, which is your favorite American flag? Now, for me, because I was actually talking to and again, I want to say it's good to be back. We were gone last week. I had a family reunion last weekend.
Oh, family.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yeah, man, just right in the middle. Boom, right in the middle
here
of the
we
podcast. Go. But, so we have this family reunion. I'm talking to my uncle, who's a big-time patriotic guy and loves American flags. And we got into this conversation. We actually got into this conversation about favorite American flag.
Yeah.
My favorite, personally, and I wish we would have stayed. I know why we have the 50 stars, but my favorite is the Betsy Ross flag. And I know that's supposed to be a racist flag, but look, I'm going to say this, okay? Since we're on that topic, and we'll cover this for a minute. I remember. You remember back when, and it wasn't even black people doing it; it was white people who were arguing over why what they call the Confederate flag. It's not, but what they call the Confederate flag was offensive.
Yeah. And
I get, and I had a friend, and he's a black guy, and we were talking about this one day, and he's not left wing, he's not liberal, and he was just expressing,
how he's allowed to be black and not a liberal.
Yeah, and he was just making, he was just expressing why that he could see why they wanted to take it off public buildings.
That's fair.
And I said, that's what I said. I said, okay, it's fair. It doesn't need to disappear from the scene and as far as historical.
Yeah.
For the express purposes that the flag, it needs to be discussed.
Mm-hmm.
And but what I told him was, I said, look, that's just the first step. That isn't where this is going to end. They're going to try now to get rid of the American flag, because the idea here is, and this is leading up to what we want to talk about today. The idea here is globalism, and they want to coincide nationalism, and in some ways it is, but they want to take that word nationalist not to mean that you are proud of your country, but that you're more in line with the KKK or the Nazis.
Oh, yeah, of course. That's always a wonderful thing. I mean, I always say this. White people of America are ruining things for everybody, okay?
I agree with you there.
No, but...
And especially, look, I'm going to say this, and I don't mean this offensively, it's the majority of it is white millennial women.
No, and you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Thing.
No, the funny thing is you're not wrong, because here's the thing. I was talking with a friend of mine, Zach, if you do listen to this, I love you, buddy. But he and I were talking about, hey, you kind of see this like bad B word mentality. And you know what I'm talking about. Like, I'm all this. I can do this. I can do that. And then, you know what we did wrong, Thomas? We let them think for themselves. That's a joke. I'm joking. It's funny. But the thing is, really, like, there's too much toxic empathy. Am I wrong? I mean,
no.
We should feel so much for everybody that you start feeling a disdain for certain things. Mm-hmm. And that's not right. That's not cool.
No.
Look, where should the Confederate flag be? It should be in a museum, just like Indiana Jones
said.
Well,
and if you want to fly, and I've told the story, I think I've told it on here, when I was living in Tennessee, and I get it. I mean, obviously I'm not a black person, right? But I can understand the intimidation, because I remember driving to Springfield, Tennessee, and there was this house that looked like, Osama bin Laden's compound, literally this big, huge brick wall that surrounded the house.
Like drink the Kool-Aid type house.
Yeah. And this guy had an American flag, a state of Tennessee flag, and then right in the center, the biggest swastika flag I've ever seen in my life.
Pretty cool, man.
I mean,
gotta go hardcore.
If you've ever seen me, I'm blonde hair and blue eyes. Okay, and I point that out for specific reasons. For the master race, as the Germans like to call them. Outside of the fact that I've got some excess weight I need to knock off, the blonde hair and blue eyes was, that was the perfect look. That intimidated me, and so I can only imagine what somebody driving through, a minority, and they see that, and they're like,
oh, yeah, trust me.
Am I going to get out of here?
Oh, trust me. I know. So I work for the county. I work for Pulaski County in Arkansas. And there are some counties that, hey, you could tell these people moved from California to get away from all the crazy and built up a nice little, bought some 10 acres and put a house on it, and they're living fine. And there's parts of the county that everywhere you look, it's Confederate flag. And I remember I was running escort for some tractors. I was in a truck behind them, and I look off to my right, and it's a really nice, fancy house. Confederate flag right on top of just their fence line.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, oh, we're in that part of Arkansas. And, people forget. That's just, when somebody says it's part of their heritage, you want to roll your eyes at that. But, I mean, we've got people who were born in America, who were raised in America, who their parents were born and raised in America, and whose grandparents were born and raised in America. Yeah. And you want to know something? They will claim their heritage is all the way back in the continent of Africa.
Yeah.
And you want to know something? Your bloodline comes from there. But you'll hear stories of so many Africans looking at black Americans and saying, I don't want no part of that.
Right. Well, I've heard some of them. As a matter of fact, I used to date this girl from Kenya, and I remember her telling a black American who was talking about, how bad they had it here. She said, well, go on back to Africa. She said, where it's their world country and pretty much the entire continent. especially, and she, and again, like I said, I mean, this girl was from Africa. She said, I'm not saying that this country is without its problems, because she said every country has their problems.
Mm-hmm.
But she said, if you really want to know what racism is, then you need to go study apartheid.
Oh, yeah. It's always good for people to know about that actually happened within the last, 30, 40 years.
Uh-huh. I mean, because that was still going on, and I think all the way up to the early 90s.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, the point is, America, as we say here, Abraham Lincoln said to form a more perfect union. He recognized we weren't. Our founders recognized we weren't. We still recognize that.
Mm-hmm.
And but a little bit of change of course, and we'll get back on this. I just came across something. The guy who this is actually just breaking news from Town Hall, and we're going to say it here because you're not going to hear it in many other places. John Rosk, he is the guy who went to Kavanaugh's house, and the FBI actually did their job once on this one. Instead of raiding a former president's house.
Let's say this: they're doing their jobs. It's just
they're raiding people's houses, and then and this one I'm going to give them their kudos on. They did their investigation on him. They found his account he had like several on Reddit.
Reddit.
And one that he was operating. I say this because AOC said the transgendered people would never do anything violent. This guy was transgender, and not only was he transgender, he identified as a sissy slave. So he was into, he said he was into the kink BDSM stuff.
Wait.
And they're supposed to be the most passive group of people.
Let me tell you something. Anybody who's got a certain kink for any type of bondage or any type of violence, it's buried down deep.
And again, listen,
it comes out.
I'm not. Listen, we're not kink shaming, is what you're saying.
Right?
Exactly. No guilt of that here.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is I'm not condemning. Okay, this guy obviously had some other serious mental issues going on. It's just that what the left does is they are so hypocritical, and we were talking about this. Talking about the hypocritical side of things. They are so hypocritical on how they do stuff. I was watching earlier. It's the documentary on Woodstock '99, and when they had it, because it was 30 years from the original one.
Yeah.
And do you know anything about that one? I remember it happening.
Wasn't DMX there?
Oh, there was a lot of people there, but the main people that was there that everybody wanted to see was Korn and Limp Bizkit. Those were the two major acts that were there that year. And
I have to say, I was a Korn fan back in high school.
Hey, and you know what? Brian Welch, man, God's did a great work in that guy's life.
Yeah, he really has.
He has
actually
done a great work.
Funny enough, that's how I found out who Korn was. Yeah, so then I just started listening to Korn before football games.
I used to see him periodically. I wasn't friends with him, but I used to see him periodically when I lived in Franklin.
Okay.
And he attended, I know what church he attended there. And I had some friends that are really good friends with him.
Nice.
So, I mean, he's real deal. I mean, God did a work for him. So not laying any blame there. But I'm watching this, and we've all heard, and I would say the majority of the people, a lot of the people, I wouldn't say majority, but a lot of the people listening to this podcast know the term satanic panic.
Yeah, dude, I play Dungeons and Dragons. I know everything about satanic panic, baby. Everybody knows about satanic panic. Let's go. Come on, everybody. Look, when I first heard about that, I remember the first time I ever experienced satanic panic, Mom, I'm going to put you out in the spotlight. She wouldn't let me watch Harry Potter, which a lot of parents did when it first started coming out. And I get it.
You know what? I mean, the woman that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, man, she got rid of all of her Harry Potter books.
No. And again, don't get me wrong.
And she's not a Christian, as far as I know.
But don't get me wrong. I can see where somebody might say, I don't want my kid to watch that because I don't want them to be influenced by it. Here's the thing. My grandparents were the people to tell me, hey, do you want to watch Harry Potter? Because they watched it. And they were like, oh, it's a fun kids movie. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing. When you when you have something where you say, no, this is a firm, no, we're not doing this, then you hold to it. But if you are going to introduce a child to even Star Wars is pretty fantasy-like too. You have to be able to tell them that it's fake.
Right.
And you have to show them what is fake and what is real. And you have to instill those tenets of being a Christian, because that's where I see a lot of people my age fall to the wayside in their walk is, well, if Harry Potter's fake, then why isn't Christianity fake? You know, that type of thing. And if you instill it at a young age to where they hold on to it, then they can tell, okay, Harry Potter shooting lightning bolts out of his whatever, the satanic panic, I know those things. They are not going to hurt me. I'm not going to think about them that way.
And I'm going to quote a scripture here. Now, listen, and I'll say, I can't even think of the woman's name now. We talked about her last week.
The tattoo artist.
Yeah.
It's been 2 weeks, so it's fine.
So she threw away,
tarot cards,
the Harry Potter stuff.
Yeah.
And she said, when just recently asked why, she said her words were that there's a spiritual attack on this nation. So I kind of feel like there's probably somebody, I don't know who, she may be coming around to Christianity, but she's not made that public statement or coming around to some kind of faith. And so she threw all that stuff away. So when a person like that does that, that is worth looking at and saying there's something to this. Because I get the people, I get it. You get a lot of people within the church, and during the Satanic Panic era, which my dad's a preacher, he's an evangelist, and the churches that he pastored and other pastors that I knew never involved themselves in that. Well, a lot of them.
So
there were a few.
They were in the thick of it.
Yeah, and I remember it very well. You'd have youth services, and somebody would want to come talk to the youth about rock and roll music, and I remember my dad just saying, "No, I'm not going to do that because I don't push it, so therefore I don't even want to talk about the negative side of stuff."
Yeah.
But what brought me to this is I'm watching this Woodstock '99 documentary, and one of the things that they're pointing out is that how that all this stuff starts going on, and they literally start burning the place down, right? And there's these, they're climbing up and destroying stuff. And they do point out in the documentary that there was drugs and alcohol, and it was being sold to people that, were well under 21. There was one girl there who in the documentary, she said she was 14 when it happened. And she said that, she was, another one who was under 21, 18, said she was popping acid from the very first day. So
you don't go to that thing without.
But when you
getting twisted, baby.
When you watch that, they point that out, but they kind of gloss over it.
Oh, of course.
The people that they really want to talk about are the people that were there for Korn, because everybody was there, wanted to listen to Korn. Well, that wasn't true, but there was a lot of people. Korn was huge.
Yeah.
But they wanted to listen to Korn. They were popping pills, and they said there was this element that was there for more than just the music. And Sheryl Crow was playing, and someone from the audience hollered out for her to expose her breasts. And they said it was just male aggression coming from these white male fraternity guys. And I'm going, so a white male fraternity guys stopped
went to go watch
Woodstock '99? I don't think so. No. When the Christians were calling out rock music, because for years they were saying rock music, and it wasn't even a Christian who said that it was contributing to the rot of our nation. Now, I don't think it's rock and roll by itself, but the lyrics. But when they did it, the church did it, it was called Satanic Panic.
Yeah.
But when they do it, it's, we've got to end the white male aggression.
Right.
Right? So it's just such this level of hypocrisy that is insufferable. And you're going, we can't talk about this, because while we agree on some things, you guys want to take it to a completely different place that I would rather just leave the rock and roll and the drugs in place than go the direction you want to go, because then that's real problems.
Well, that hypocrisy, it's like everybody says, politics is downstream of culture. You start that culture of well, it was it's Christians' fault. It's the white man's fault. And then you go to say, hey, no Christians were at this location. In fact, there was a very small minority of white people at this event. Not Woodstock 99. I'm just saying in general.
Well, January 6th, we can just take that one.
Well, okay. Well, what I'm saying is that, okay, fine. We'll do that. I'm talking about the hypocrisy of emails. We can't talk about that.
Right.
We can't try to get an investigation on that. She gets to sit up there and say, why does it matter? She literally said that on the stand. Why does it matter? Well, it matters for a lot of reasons. That's not the point what I'm getting at. What I'm saying is the hypocrisy is we can't talk about that. We can't talk about the summer of love. But we could talk about this one instance on January 6th where the people, if they were trespassing, if you were in a senator's office and you were taking their mail, I believe you deserve punishment.
Yeah.
However, there was a good number of people like MAGA Meemaw is what they're calling her, the 69, 70-year-old lady who was arrested from Alaska because she was just in the area. You're telling me that old lady was trying to cause an insurrection? You're trying to tell me that there are a bunch of people who didn't even know why they were there. They were like, look, we just don't like the election results. Okay.
Yep.
That's it. Okay. But the people who did go in, yes, should be in trouble. But we can't talk about the summer of love with the millions upon millions upon millions of dollars in damages. People would say, well, it's just businesses that were destroyed. You want to know something?
Right.
You can punch a man. You can kick a man. You can shoot a man. You take a man's ability to provide. You done something worse than killing him. And that's what happened during the summer of love. So we can't talk about the summer of love. We can't talk about Hillary Clinton, but we can talk about Trump and alleged things that may have happened and how Mar-a-Lago raid was totally justified. And we can also talk about January 6th and how that's justified. So when you look at the culture at Woodstock, it was a bunch of white men who were causing an issue. It started there. What do you mean it was a bunch of white men? It was just people being idiots all across the board. Black, white, Cuban, Asian, doesn't matter. Everybody was there to watch some idiots act like fools.
Yeah.
And so I just think that we really need to think about this hypocrisy in our... I didn't watch that.
The documentary?
Yeah, I didn't watch it. It's on Netflix.
Yeah.
Because I have been hearing that there's been... Man, summertime usually has the best documentaries that comes out.
Yeah.
I mean, remember Tiger King? So, I mean, there's that. But
yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, hypocrisy isn't something that is thrown out just willy-nilly. It is something that's been thrown out at Christians a lot. Well, you're a hypocrite. How can you say you love me, but you don't agree with me? The weird thing about, like when you connect love and going along with whatever you're doing.
Right.
That's not good.
Yeah.
You know, am I supposed to love a crackhead and just let them continue to be a crackhead? Is that loving for them?
No, the Bible says you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free.
Right. And so if you're doing these wrong things and you're calling me a hypocrite because I don't agree with you, but I just say, hey, look, this is just what I believe.
Right.
That doesn't mean I hate you or I love you any less. It just means we're just not going to agree on this and we may not get along on these decisions, but that's about it.
Well, social media is a bully pulpit. I mean, it's because, I mean, you get somebody who disagrees or dislikes what you're saying, and the first thing somebody says is, well, I've got this many followers, and I'll tell them how bad you are.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing is, here's what I think they've done. I think Trump comes back in 2024. He runs again, and he wins big. And I would also say, you know, because I do know that we have people that lean very socialist that listen to this podcast. They don't they don't identify with this podcast. Don't get me wrong, but I do know they listen to it. And I would say to them, look, everything that you hate about billionaires isn't the billionaire you hate. It's the elites you hate. And no one likes the elites. The elites are the ones who are trying to take away everything we own and make our lives completely and totally different. Not billionaires. And there's a difference. You know, that's the reason why they've just hired 87,000 IRS agents and arming them. And I think they paid $700,000 or $700 million for ammunition. And one of the things, because you can find it, one of the things that they sign is that, are you willing to use deadly force? One of the things that IRS agents will do is they'll come to your house, and when you say, well, you need a search warrant, no, we don't. Because that's one of the things they're going to try to pull. We are going to have to make certain that we show up to the polls in mass. And I would say, don't just vote Republican. Look at the people you're voting for. Look at their voting record. Have they voted for anything that has instituted this stuff? Because at the end of the day, I don't care what they say. One of the things that they want to end is the church's influence, Christians' influence. That's the reason why that their biggest billy club that they love to beat people over the heads with is, in fact, separation of church and state. And, their side, and you've got all these George Soros-backed DAs that they're just simply not prosecuting people who are breaking the law. And the Bible tells us that when justice is not speedily executed, the wicked is encouraged in their ways. And we're seeing that happen. We're seeing people that are, look, human behavior is vile anyway. And when it is completely and totally, unchecked and not kept within reins, you get what we're seeing. A lot of times people want to talk about. I got into this conversation with some of the family members at the reunion. What we're seeing isn't. It's not. It is sin, but God turns people over to themselves, and when these kind of things happen, what's really going on is these are all the unintended consequences of sin that is not repented of, atoned for, and turned away from.
Yeah.
And so when people just go in their own way, in our own sinful fleshly desires, that knows no ends. And that's what we're seeing going on in our country and in our world. As people have turned away from God and turned away from their faith, again, Madison said that we are a country that's made for moral and religious people. When people turn away from that, they are uncontrolled.
Yeah.
And a government does have to get bigger because, when people don't have a moral compass, they're not going to make good decisions.
And somebody's going to need to come in and take care of that. To go off that point with the agents, from timcast.com, they wrote an article about the bill that was put into place. And just scrolling down, among the 750 pages of provisions, this bill will increase the Internal Revenue Service, or the IRS's budget, by $80 million. Mm-hmm. Just over $45 billion would be specifically be used for enforcement, including closing tax loopholes and pursuing people with unpaid taxes. If the act becomes law, the agency would have the ability to hire 80,000 additional auditors and agents. Now, that's if it goes through, and that's if they want to hire that many. But why wouldn't you want to hire that many more if you wanted to get people to do your bidding? Now, of course, people would say, well, you're just playing about whataboutisms. And I'm literally telling you that human nature that Thomas was talking about bleeds into government. The government is just a bunch of people making up rules and doing whatever they please. If they are at the top, their job is not to serve you. It is to keep themselves on the top.
Yeah. Yeah.
No matter what. Okay? Nancy Pelosi going to Taiwan, I'll give her credit for that, because
I'll give her credit for that.
That was a gangster move, okay?
Yeah.
All right? When a bully is saying, "Hey, you come over here and I'm going to do something to you," and you just pretty much go, "Let me slide up in here. I'm a step right here." And you look them in the eye and say, "I'm not like giving in to your
every time
demands."
they draw a line, you just keep stepping over.
You just keep stepping over what a bully wants to keep you from doing, because that's what China is. Pelosi, you have my congrats on that. However, we're talking about a person who is in power at the top and has a buttload of money, and is making rules. What's she trying to do? She went over there to not do anything to say, "Hey, this is for America." Okay, I'll give you props. You went over there, but she went over there on personal matters. There's a company over there she's investing in. You may want to invest in that company. And That's just something she wanted to do on a personal level. She's not telling people I'm going over here for personal matters. She's making it like a political ploy, which, don't get me wrong, again, you're making somebody who genuinely dislikes you say, good job, but why were you over there? And that's the thing, everybody. You should be asking these questions. Why do you want to increase the budget of the IRS? Because it looks like, to me, just by putting in the numbers, you can hire 80,000 new Gestapo. Okay,
and that's
you can hire new guards to keep your power. And you know something? And here I have to ask you: do you think these people who are, and this isn't rhetorical, do you think these people who are being hired by the IRS really care about America? Period.
No, what you've got, and I will say this: what you know when you go back and you look at when Nazism took over in Germany, you had the SS and then you had the SA. And the SS was withdrawn. They really weren't on the front lines in the very early days. The SA were. The SA would be what would later be called the brown shirts. And the SA
That's right.
were the guys that, they were the Antifa and they were the BLM of that time.
Yeah.
They were the guys that would go in and they would break stuff, loot, and this is why Hitler was able to say, well, we got to get the Jews out of the ghettos and we got to move them to safer places.
Right.
And Germans didn't question where they were going.
Why would you?
Yeah. And so, that doesn't let Germans off the hook. I'm just saying what they do. And so, we look at a whole summer of love, which were riots, right? And so then when it came time for the Nazis to take over, and you go and you study and you look at things like what was called Night of the Long Knives, there was an order kind of like Order 66.
I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. Thank you. I've
been doing my research.
Vindication. All right, nerd culture tells a story of what is happening in this world, okay?
Been doing my research. And so Night of the Long Knives, they go in and they just completely annihilate and kill all the SA.
Yeah.
And then the SS come in and they take over.
Interesting.
Am I saying that's exactly what's going to happen here? I think something very close.
Well, playbooks are passed down by generations.
Yeah. Let's face it. ATF and BLM, I've said this since day one. I say it now. They're pawns.
We talked about Waco.
Right.
Okay. We've talked about how that was unconstitutionally a massacre.
Yeah. Well, it was. And the government is much more sophisticated than to go in. They will do it eventually, but they're much more sophisticated, and they will allow people like Antifa and BLM to go do their stuff. This is why, I've heard people say, you don't believe Black Lives Matter? No, I absolutely do. I don't believe in the organization.
Yeah, the organization is what the problem is.
Yeah, because I believe that all lives matter, and I believe Black Lives Matter, but here's what you're missing. You're missing that the organization is a Marxist organization that is getting Black lives killed.
It's like
they don't care.
It's like a spoof of George W. Bush once said in a comedy on Comedy Central. You don't need to believe in your government. Believe in your country. And I believe that. I truly do. Out of all places, that's Comedy Central, that's a good quote. I don't care for this government. No. I do not. And that's the other thing. I at one point...
Our founding fathers always said be leery of your government.
Look, it's kind of like Rand Paul or Ron Paul. I get them mixed up.
Well, there's two of them. There is Rand and Ron.
But they are both libertarian in nature.
Yeah.
But one of them said, look, if you elect me as president, I'll leave you alone.
Oh, that was Ron.
Yeah. And that's... Thank you. Leave me alone. Keep us safe from the predators outside of the... See, listen, America, think of it as a chicken coop. Mm-hmm. Okay? Everybody inside, there's hens, there's roosters, everybody's doing their thing, they're having a good time, they're eating, they're being merry, they're whatever.
Yeah.
The dog of the farm, which is the government, is not supposed to be a fox.
Right.
It's supposed to be a dog and look around outside and say, clear, clear, clear. What are you doing over there, Japan? What are you doing over there, Germany? I don't like what you're doing over there in the Middle East. Calling people out, saying, don't come over here.
Right.
I told my people I won't mess with them, and if I won't mess with them, you definitely can't mess with them.
Well, that's the thing. You go back to the Lincoln administration. See, this is what I'm talking about. A lot of people think that I just hound on globalism too much, and they think, well, you got to be careful with the nationalism because that can go far right. I get it. I really do get it. But going far left is as equally dangerous. As a matter of fact, when someone goes far right or far left, that just makes one big circle, and the two eventually meet. And the reason that I'm America first is, you go back to the Lincoln administration, and I think this, the man got assassinated because I think when you start fighting back against globalism, you are dealing with the spirit of the Antichrist. And the Bible in James tells us that there are many Antichrists in the world today. Does that mean that God is not powerful enough to stop it? No, he absolutely is. But there's also a plan in place. And, Lincoln was very much America first. Lincoln did not believe in fair trade. Lincoln believed in very same thing Donald Trump did. And that was do everything in country and then charge high tariffs and import prices because of the fact that if a country comes to us, then they're going to pay us for the goods and services. They're going to pay us for the work and the labor going into it. And Americans are going to receive a fair wage for that work and then sending what we've grown and built to another country. That's what he believed in. And also too, high import taxes discourages going to another country to get something imported, right? That's the whole purpose of it. It's not because you're trying to make the rich wealthier. Do the rich get more money? They do.
But so do all of us.
But so do all of us. And so it's like they always want to talk about redistribution of the wealth. That's the best way to redistribute the wealth.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care if the guy at top makes more money because he thought of the idea or she thought of the idea, not me.
Look,
I just want to benefit from it.
Let them keep their money. Here's the crazy part. It comes from social media. There is a cancerous thought of, I need to be as rich as Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
No, you don't. What you need to understand, and you as in anybody listening to this, understand, I guarantee you wouldn't know what to do with yourself with all that money. The reason that man is so rich, the reason Elon Musk is so rich, the reason you name it, they also kind of need that money.
They do, but you also have to look at a guy like Jeff Bezos. He never thought he was going to get that rich.
Yeah, he kind of needs that money to put around and to put in a project so that he can grow what he already has.
Well, I had a conversation with somebody earlier this week, and they're again, they lean a little bit. I don't think they would classify or identify as a socialist, but they are more socialist. And they were saying that they thought that the billions needed to be separated out, and that. The average American doesn't need any more than about $50 or $60 million. And I said, well, the problem is, that sounds good. I said, but the problem is it's going to take all of that and then some to get a business started, a business that's actually going to be effective nationwide. You have to have operating capital. And $50 to $60 million is not a lot of operating capital, especially when you look at the price of inflation.
Yep.
And so what they fail to realize, the billionaires have that money because, it's like this whole thing that you just read, and I wanted to talk about that. Or, they want to. No, it wasn't you. I was just reading something here. No, it may have been you. Anyway, talking about making certain people are paying their fair share. That's why they're hiring the 87,000, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not true. They're coming after
everybody.
everybody.
Yeah,
right?
No, it's
because
not.
If you have at any time $10,000 in your bank account, they're going to audit you.
Right.
Now, I know this to be true because I just got audited because I paid off a $600 credit card bill. Okay? I just paid it off. Boom. And I say I did it a few months ago. I got audited for that. $600.
Where'd you get the money?
Yeah. And I'm going, so the point being, and they shut that credit card down for 2 months.
That's wild.
Auditing $600.
See, that's wild. And people think, oh, well, no, this is a good thing. The rich people are going to be. Guys, the little guy.
Because we can't afford the money to hire lawyers.
Exactly. So we just give in and we pay up. So look, I've seen this on the internet multiple times. Oh, you're just you're just you're simping for the rich man. I'm like, no, I'm just saying I understand it. If I had that much money and all I did was business deals and make plans to make more money and to put projects in and to create job opportunities for other people, yeah, I wouldn't mind having over $1 billion to just play around with and make things happen for other people to prosper from. You know, from one of the shows I did in high school, Hello Dolly, one of the lines that was said is that money's like manure. If it sits around and it piles up, it stinks, it smells. But the only way that it can be of use is if it's spread all over. And this was coming from a businessman who was saying, I need to take this money and I need to be able to put it in different ventures to create different opportunities so other people other than me can grow themselves.
Yeah.
And you know something? I'm telling you, guys, go find a nice plot of land and then map out 2 to 3 acres. Guys, you could live off of that. You'd be fine.
Yeah.
You would be simply content, especially out in California, Washington, or Oregon. Go ahead and move to those states. Those states are great. But if you're someone like me who lives in Arkansas, you just find an acre to 3 acres. You're fine. You're living happy. You don't need too much. You don't need all of the wealth that the world wants to make you think, because it's like the Bible says. The Bible never says that money is evil.
Yeah.
Right? It says the love of it is evil. And you know something? I've seen a lot of people get really evil, not because they have money, but because they don't have money. They love it so much, they covet over it. They start to turn dark and dirty, and they want to do whatever it takes to get that money. And so, by all means, look, Thomas and I here, we both agree, loving that money is not good. But when you have money to uplift other people, not by just giving it to them, but by giving them an opportunity to do better for themselves, because that's saying you give a man a fish and he eats for a day, but if you teach a man to fish, if you teach a man to make plays for himself, he gets to eat for an entire lifetime.
Yeah. Well, you know, you look at a sorry, because you were just letting me know how much.
Yeah.
Okay, this shouldn't take that long. But I'm reading a article by Dennis Prager. It's why are so many young Americans irreligious? The secular brainwash is the first reason. And one of the things he talks about there is he says that people always want to point to the atrocities that was committed by religion. And of course, when they say religion, now remember, keep in mind, Dennis Prager's Jewish.
Yeah.
And he said when they want to talk about religion, they specifically want to isolate it to Christianity. And they want to talk about all the evils and all the slavery and all this stuff that was committed by Christianity, when in reality, every culture during the Middle Ages, everybody was religious. You were either Christian or you were really Christian or Muslim. And all of these atrocities, if it was good or bad, it was committed by a religion, or it was done by a religion of some sort, of one way or the other. And so he goes on to say that, you cannot. It is a fallacy to argue that religion did it. But if you want to look at the most bloodiest century in world history, was the 20th century. And it was not committed by religious people. It was committed by people who were anti-Christian, anti-religion. And that's what we're talking about here today. What we're dealing with now are people, this is common. I mean, study anything about communist revolutions. It's always committed by people that have abandoned a faith in God. And see, when you get people to abandon their faith in God, they have no other option but to look to government to take care of them. Because, first off, God is the one who gives us the idea, hey, I can take care of myself. When we abandon that, we abandon all self-identity, we abandon all self-sufficiency, and we turn that into something much bigger than we are. So I'm gonna leave off the show with this, saying, Jesus tells us not to let our hearts be troubled. We have to keep our eyes on what God's doing. On Wednesday nights, I've been teaching a series on, and I'm wrapping it up this coming Wednesday night, on the kingdom of God. And Christ talked more about the kingdom of God than he did the church. And, we have to keep our eyes as Christians on the kingdom of God. And if you're listening to this podcast and maybe you grew up in church, maybe you didn't grow up in church. But if you're listening to this podcast and you are being told, and you may even believe that Christianity is the responsibility for all these evils going on, remember, you're being sold a lie. Don't believe it. Study history for yourself and find out. I promise you will find out that what you're being told is untrue.
I appreciate that. It's been a wonderful exchange, everybody. We really appreciate you guys listening. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. We have the link in our bio for Tithely to go over there and, click on the drop box. You find the Exchange podcast. If you feel like donating, you could donate there. We have a lot of prayers and things that we're not going to get into right now because it's the end of the show. But we are thinking about making some moves to other platforms. We're not going to leave Facebook and YouTube. But we are just planning on getting a chance to go other places. So keep us in your prayers.
One thing I do want to, we do still have the link in the YouTube, right, for, is it go something send go for the relief fund?
Yeah.
Is that still there? Okay.
I still have it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have that too. We have any link that you guys may need. It's going to be down in the bio below. But if you guys can't find it for some odd reason, please send us a message on Facebook, comment below, and just let us know everything. One more thing before we go. I'm just going to ask you guys, what's your favorite flag and why? Have a good one. Love you. Peace out.